Hi, and welcome to CryptoBiography. I'm your host, Brandon Starr. This is episode 384 of CryptoBiography, and I'm calling this one Dizzy. And the story will continue, but I was not able to do enough writing to make an actual episode this week. The reason for that was twofold. First of all, it's always busier on a new TeenyCast week. I have a second podcast about Star Wars: The Old Republic. We do it every other week. And that always takes up like the middle part of the week because like the day before I'm working on show notes and the day of we're recording and then editing. And I very rarely get much writing done on those days at all. So the difficulty is then if I haven't done enough writing in the early part of the week, which I didn't in this case, then I only have a few days left and I have to like really, move on the writing. And unfortunately, that's where we get into the dizzy part. So this is a bit of a story, not too long, but in college, it happened to me for the first time. I was just in a normal classroom. We were doing a lecture. I can't remember which exact class it was. I think it was a literature class. But in any case, all of a sudden I started feeling dizzy. And I didn't have any other, symptoms. It was just dizziness. And it was so extreme. It was really crazy how extreme this dizziness was. That I just kind of said, hey, to the professor, I've got to leave. I'm feeling dizzy. And I just basically stumbled out of the room, went across the campus to the the nurses station for first aid area or whatever in the where was it I think it was in like the student hall thing, where the other sort of like it has the had the cafeteria and some other stuff, and that's where the little nursing station was. So they didn't exactly, they can't do a lot of tests or anything, but apparently they'd seen it before. And the nurse, basically said, yeah, that's going to be an inner ear virus. And so the only thing you can do when this happens is to get as much rest as you can and just wait for it to be done, because it's just a bug that's gotten inside your inner ear and it's making you dizzy. So I stumbled home, threw up a bunch because it was so extreme. Like the whole room was swimming. It was really, really vile. The room was swimming. It was very difficult to even think straight. It was that bad. And fortunately, that was as bad as it got. And then it got a little bit better. And it took several days. I was actually dizzy for several days, staying in bed, lying down helped, fortunately. If I'm lying down when I'm dizzy, it feels a lot better than if I'm trying to be upright. I don't know exactly why that happens. Something about, I don't know if it's psychological. I don't know if it's something physical about being on your side. I have no idea why, but that seems to help. So that was not fun at all. That was in college. And unfortunately, it was not a one-off. But the only fortunate part is that it is relatively rare. But the problem is, ever since then, about every few years, it happens again. And the only other good news, besides the fact that it's fairly rare, is that it's never been as bad as that first time. The first time was by far the worst. Second time was bad, but significantly less bad. I think the only real dizziness lasted a full day, and I don't think I actually threw up that second time. And then the time since then, it's gotten progressively less and less bad. So I don't remember exactly when it was. The problem is it's so seldom, it only happens every few years. So I keep thinking, okay, maybe whenever I happen to think about it, which is usually, when the subject of dizziness comes up, I think to myself, okay, well, it's been a while, so maybe it's just gone now. And I keep thinking that, and I keep hoping that, and so far at least it hasn't happened. So it happened again this week, and the timing was really poor too, because like I finished the Utini cast, and then the next day, which, I was sitting down to get going on writing again, that's when it hit me. And all of a sudden I was like, oh no, I'm dizzy again. So I just, unfortunately, at this point, it's pretty mild. Like I went to bed, I felt dizzy. I never felt nauseous even. Like it never even upset my stomach. And it never, and like the room wasn't quite swimming. Like it was close and I could tell I was dizzy, but the room wasn't like, when I get really dizzy, like your eyes are trying to adjust, and the room jitters around because of it, because of the signals that are happening inside your inner ear. It wasn't quite to that point, so, which is good. Like it's getting a little bit milder every time, and I'm okay with that. But still, it felt pretty bad. And the next day, I wasn't dizzy, but I felt like a flu-y symptom. So I'm thinking what happens. I don't know exactly why it keeps coming back with exactly the same symptoms. And I say symptoms, but it's really just the one symptom. Sometimes I feel a little flu-y the next day, like once it goes away, like I did this time, but that's about it. And other than that, it's just the dizziness. My guess is that it's like one of those things where there's a viral, pocket that sort of like goes dormant, and then every once in a while decides it's time to strike out again and makes me dizzy again, and then my body beats it back, and then it retreats again. That's the only thing I can think is what's happening. And maybe that makes sense. Like, maybe my body then makes, some immunity to it for a while and kind of beats it down for a while. And then at some point it goes away enough that my body doesn't learn how to, fight it again. So, and then eventually it gets strong again and comes out again. That's just supposition though. I don't actually know. So that's why I didn't get the writing done this week. One other thing I'd like to say about this is when I'm lying down, even this time, even though it was very, very mild, there is some part of me that is just terrified that the dizziness won't go away. Like this time it'll be permanent. Like something will be damaged, in my inner ear, or for some other reason, and the dizziness will just not go away. It is just a terrifying thought. Like I was definitely thinking it that first time in college, because it lasted several days and it was like really severe the first couple of days. And then when it came back, like that thought came back again as well. Like what happens if this time the dizziness just doesn't end? Like it just keeps going. Because even the mild version of the dizziness, that would make it very difficult to sort of live day by day if I was just constantly slightly dizzy. Like how would you even go make your way through the day that way? I don't know. Fortunately, once again, my body's beaten it back. No permanent damage seems to have been done, and we're okay. The other reason that I worry about the dizziness thing, like becoming permanent, is that when I was young, my parents, we had a small sailboat and we would take it out sometimes. And it never gave me any issues. Like I never was seasick. And then after I got sick that time in college, then like when I happened to go out on the ocean, and this was on a lake, so it was a lot less, there was a lot less wiggling around. But anyway, the time I was like on a fishing boat, it was like a charter fishing thing. I was just, going along with some friends. I wasn't actually fishing. But I immediately got seasick, and it was really, really nasty, like really bad seasick, like the kind where your extremities feel tingly, you throw up, it goes out the other end too. It's like really vile. Yeah. So in fact, the last time I was on any kind of real boat was a cruise up to Alaska, and actually before that I got a hold of some medicine. It's the kind, it's anti-nausea medication. You put it behind, it's like a little patch that you put behind your ear, and it lasts like a couple of days, and then you redo it as long as you're on the ship, and that actually worked great. but because I really had never experienced any sort of seasickness before, and then I had afterwards, I always wondered if that was like, if that had happened because of the inner ear virus, and if something had been slightly damaged, and like it made me a lot more like susceptible. It's possible. I don't know. Maybe I would have gotten seasick as a kid, and I just, the little sailboat we were on just wasn't quite enough to actually trigger it. Maybe we weren't long enough, or it just wasn't, wavy enough or whatever. But anyway, that was the fact that I would get seasick after that was another reason why this fear would come back. Like maybe something's damaged in my inner ear. Maybe maybe this would become permanent, and I would actually like have to live with just being dizzy all the time. So far that hasn't happened, and thank goodness, because holy cow, that would be a miserable way to live. It would be very difficult. Depending on how severe the dizziness was, it might be like almost life-ending. Like it might make it almost impossible to, in the long term, to go on. Even if it was mild though, and I just felt like crap all the time and like couldn't properly focus on things, it would be very difficult. And it just, so I know people have severe, ongoing diseases and issues. And so I guess I'm fortunate that this one has kind of gone away. But every time it comes back, that fear comes back too. And fortunately, like I say, the dizziness wasn't bad, but it was bad enough that I didn't end up getting a whole lot of writing done. I sort of know where the story is going, and I should have no problem, even shouldn't have a problem, getting this story going again. But anyway, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you have any comments or questions about this episode or previous episodes, cryptobiography@gmail.com, or hit us up on Facebook or Twitter. And thanks for listening. Words and Music, copyright 2024, Brandon Starr. All rights reserved. Characters and events are fictional, fictionalized, or satirical.